Everyone tells you that if he's not calling, it's because he doesn't care. That's a complete misconception. A man's silence is far more nuanced than that, and if you don't grasp what it truly signifies, you'll continue misreading everything. After years of counseling women who question why he isn't calling, why he won't reply to texts, why he vanishes without warning, I discovered something that stopped me cold. The issue isn't that they can't interpret the signals. The issue is that they've been conditioned to misinterpret male silence since childhood. They were taught that if a man doesn't chase you, he's not interested. They were taught that love manifests through constant contact. They were taught that if he truly cared, he'd text you daily. And all these misconceptions have led them to view every silence as rejection, every pause as indifference, every gap in communication as proof that something's wrong. Today, we're going to unravel that confusion completely, because a man's silence isn't arbitrary, nor is it an unsolvable puzzle. It's a distinct signal, a window into what's occurring within him. And by the end of this discussion, you'll understand precisely how to respond when he goes quiet without sacrificing your equilibrium, your tranquility, or your inner strength. Before you think, I already understand all this, let me pose a question. The last time he didn't text you for 2 days, did you maintain your emotional balance? Did you resist checking your phone compulsively? Did you avoid constructing narratives in your mind about what might be happening? If you answered no, then you need to hear this entire message. As Sigmund Freud observed, what disturbs us in others often reveals truths about ourselves. Stoicism can guide you in interpreting his withdrawal without surrendering your inner strength. And here's what nobody explains about this timeless philosophy. It's not about becoming emotionless or detached. It's about remaining grounded while chaos swirls around you. This might sound severe, but you need to hear it. Sometimes silence is an unconscious strategy to gauge your reaction when he pulls back. Not all men employ this deliberately, but they do it. And here's the aspect that troubles me most to acknowledge. It frequently succeeds. Have you ever caught yourself sending light-hearted texts after he's been silent for days? Hey there, everything all right? Haven't heard from you? You inquire if he's fine. You rationalize why you haven't connected. You begin explaining why you didn't reach out. If this sounds familiar, he's observing precisely what he hoped to see, that you're emotionally reliant on his attention. And here's what genuinely pains me. Countless remarkable, brilliant women, accomplished in their professions, utterly surrender their strength when interpreting male silence. Women who manage companies, who single-handedly raise families, who've conquered massive challenges, transform into uncertain versions of themselves when he doesn't answer a text. Some men, whether consciously or not, create distance to test if you'll pursue them. And if your world collapses in their absence, if you require them to feel complete, it becomes an unplanned psychological test, where your response reveals everything about the influence they wield over you. Here's what nobody discusses. Each time you respond frantically to his silence, each time you alter your energy due to his absence, you're surrendering power he hasn't earned. You're demonstrating that he can affect you without even being there. But here's the crucial element. Stoicism teaches that your worth isn't determined by who contacts you. It's determined by how you remain centered when they don't. A woman who stays balanced when he doesn't call, who proceeds with her life unchanged, who doesn't alter her energy due to his absence, that woman possesses true strength. Do you realize what occurs when a woman doesn't respond to the silence? When he returns, because eventually he will, he encounters someone who wasn't suspended in waiting. He encounters a woman who continued working, creating, connecting, living. And that distinction, trust me, he senses immediately. Share in the comments if you've experienced this. Have you ever felt pressured to demonstrate you weren't clingy precisely when you needed him most? Because that internal conflict is exactly where we forfeit our strength. Now comes a reality that might sting, but will ultimately liberate you. Sometimes his silence isn't manipulation or punishment. It's not about you whatsoever. He's simply concentrated on his personal objectives, his own endeavors, or even his own diversions. He's making himself the priority, and frequently that's precisely what he should do. Men possess this capacity to compartmentalize that's often challenging for women to comprehend. They can be completely absorbed in a work assignment, a family matter, a personal ambition, and during that period, relationships become secondary, not because they're indifferent, but because that's their processing method. This can be tremendously frustrating, particularly when you do have availability for him, when you are considering him, when you create time in your schedule to text him, to connect, to nurture that bond, and he appears entirely disconnected. But here's the insight that transforms everything. His silence is an ideal opportunity for you to reconnect with yourself. It's life saying, while he's engaged in his world, construct yours. B is, when did you last go days without checking if he texted? When were you last so absorbed in your personal projects that you forgot to scan your phone for his messages? When did you last wake up thrilled about something you were pursuing, not something you hoped he would pursue? These questions are uncomfortable because they expose how much of our emotional stability we've entrusted to someone else's care. How much of our daily contentment relies on the attention we get rather than the attention we give ourselves. You weren't created to revolve around anyone. You are your own cosmos with your personal aspirations, visions, and priorities. You have a life to construct, achievements to reach, people to cherish, moments to experience. While he's engaged in his world, construct yours. While he's quiet, discover your voice. While he's creating distance, draw nearer to yourself. And here's what transpires when you genuinely commit to this. When you authentically concentrate on your personal life, when he returns, because ultimately he will, he won't encounter a woman in waiting. He'll encounter a woman who's engaged, focused, with experiences to share, with projects to discuss, with a compelling life to welcome him into. He'll encounter a woman who didn't require him for happiness, who didn't suspend her life awaiting his attention, who didn't freeze her world because he went quiet. And that distinction, trust me, he'll sense it immediately, because there's an entirely different frequency in a woman who's content independently versus one who requires external affirmation to feel complete. Now we've reached the section nobody wants to confront, but we must approach with honesty. Yes, sometimes silence indicates disinterest. Harsh but accurate, and the quicker you acknowledge it, the sooner you stop resisting this reality, the faster you liberate yourself from draining illusions. Here's what I've discovered after years of observing women hold on to men who clearly invest no effort. Attachment is the actual adversary, not loss. Attachment to a concept, to a possibility, to what might be rather than what actually exists. Do you understand the distinction between a woman who suffers for years over a man who doesn't appreciate her and one who liberates herself swiftly? The latter comprehends that if he departs, it's because something superior is approaching. She doesn't exhaust herself attempting to persuade someone to care for her. She doesn't deplete herself trying to demonstrate her value to someone who can't perceive it. The woman who liberates herself swiftly comprehends that authentic love doesn't demand persuasion, pursuit, or self-abandonment just to maintain someone's interest. And let me share something that might seem provocative but is a reality you need to acknowledge. A man who loses interest without legitimate cause, who vanishes without explanation, who lacks the maturity to express his emotions, he's performing a tremendous service. He's revealing his true nature before you invest additional time, energy, or optimism. He's exposing his communication abilities, his emotional development, his consideration for you as an individual. And if all of that is absent, do you genuinely want to construct something meaningful with someone like that? The universe has mysterious methods of shielding you. Sometimes protection manifests as silence. Sometimes the most valuable response you can get is no response whatsoever, because that void communicates everything necessary. Here's what occurs when you adjust your viewpoint on this. Rather than perceiving his disinterest as a personal defeat, you begin viewing it as useful data. Rather than questioning, what did I do incorrectly, you start asking, what does this reveal about him? But there's also this truth we can't dismiss. Numerous men were never educated in expressing emotions constructively. Their silence might be their method of processing pressure, uncertainty, or even their personal emotional immaturity. Society conditions men to view vulnerability as frailty, that discussing emotions is feminine, that they must resolve everything independently. So when they experience emotional overload, their automatic reaction is to retreat, process quietly, disconnect briefly. Here's what Stoicism instructs. Don't bear what isn't yours. His internal battles, his communication deficiencies, his stress management approach, those aren't your obligations. You don't need to interpret everything as personal rejection. Sometimes silence reveals more about his internal landscape than about your inherent value. A man might be experiencing anxiety and lack the words to articulate it. He could be battling depression and not want to burden you with his negative energy. He might be confronting financial difficulties and feel unable to be the partner he aspires to be until he resolves them. But here's the essential element. Comprehending all this doesn't require you to endure it forever. Understanding doesn't equal limitless tolerance. Compassion doesn't mean sacrificing your emotional requirements. Here's what is your obligation. Determining whether you want partnership with someone who manages emotions that way. Determining whether you can embrace those silent periods as part of his nature, or if you require someone with superior emotional expression. Because comprehension doesn't equal endless patience. You can grasp why someone behaves a particular way and still conclude that it's incompatible with your relationship needs. Now we arrive at the most profound and transformative aspect. Rather than viewing his silence as an insult or indication that you need to try harder, question whether this isn't the ideal opportunity to reconnect with yourself, to develop, to concentrate on your journey, your endeavors, your core. This is the viewpoint that transforms everything. His silence as a chance, his absence as an opening, his distance as room for your growth. What would transpire if, rather than questioning why isn't he calling, you asked, what can I build while he's absent? What would occur if, rather than awaiting his text, you concentrated on sending yourself messages of encouragement? What if you utilized this quiet period to reconnect with friends you've overlooked, to complete that program you abandoned midway, to launch that venture you've been delaying, to return to exercise, to read those books, to pursue those interests you've neglected? Genuine strength isn't about manipulating others. It's about controlling your reaction to them. While he remains quiet, you can grow stronger, richer, more fascinating. While he's absent, you can become more engaged in your personal life. I've witnessed women who utilized a man's silence as motivation to entirely revolutionize their existence. Women who started enterprises, returned to education, reconnected with friends, rediscovered interests they had neglected because they were excessively focused on a relationship. And here's what occurs when a woman evolves in his absence. When he returns and discovers someone more confident, more balanced, more whole, the dynamics shift entirely. You're no longer the woman who waits. You're the woman who selects. Because here's a reality few grasp. Men are attracted to women who maintain full, vibrant lives beyond them. Not women who require them to feel complete, but women who desire them, yet don't desperately need them. This might be the most significant element of this entire discussion. Silence removes distractions, leaves you alone with yourself. And that's where the fundamental question emerges, the one that determines everything. Who are you when he doesn't reply? That question is harsh, but essential because it exposes precisely where your strength resides and where you've relinquished it. Do you lose yourself when he doesn't reply? Do you feel hollow? Do you begin doubting everything about yourself? Do you become nervous, uncertain, desperate? Or do you encounter a woman who is resilient, balanced, and whole independently? The response to that question determines everything. It determines how men perceive you. It determines the relationships you attract. It determines whether your strength is authentic or borrowed. This is the distinction between a woman who exists for male validation and a woman who exists from her personal core. The former crumbles in silence. The latter flourishes in solitude. And here's what happens with those women. They seldom experience extended silences because men can sense their energy. They perceive that these women aren't desperate for attention, that they won't collapse if nobody calls, that they maintain a full, vibrant existence beyond the relationship. Men can sense when a woman has alternatives, when she isn't dependent, when she can thrive without them. And that energy is compelling, not from neediness, but from completeness. The genuine battlefield of stoicism isn't in defeating others, it's in mastering yourself. And when you achieve that, when you become your personal source of affirmation, tranquility and joy, other people's silence ceases being a danger and becomes a possibility. But let me be transparent with you. Reaching this state isn't simple. It demands profound internal work. It demands confronting your uncertainties, your anxieties, your habits of emotional reliance. It demands creating a genuinely authentic bond with yourself. Many women ask me, how do I stop caring when he doesn't call? And I consistently tell them the same thing. It's not about not caring. It's about valuing your tranquility more than his attention. It's about creating a life so meaningful, so significant, so filled with purpose that his silence can't diminish it. It's about maintaining so many sources of happiness, fulfillment, and connection that the absence of one doesn't devastate you. And here's what genuinely excites me to share. When a woman accomplishes this, when she genuinely develops that internal foundation, it doesn't merely transform her relationships with men. It transforms everything. Her relationships with career, with friends, with family, with herself, because the identical strength that enables you to remain balanced when he doesn't call is the same strength that helps you advocate better at work, establish healthy limits with family, and select friendships that genuinely sustain you. Now that you understand the 6 authentic reasons behind male silence, we reach the question that genuinely matters. What will you do with this knowledge? How will you implement it in your actual life? Because comprehension is merely the initial phase. Information without implementation is just entertainment. Transformation is authentic when you modify how you react, when you incorporate these concepts into your everyday existence. Here's what I want you to practice. The next time he doesn't call, I want you to pause before grabbing the phone, before typing that casual text, before constructing narratives in your mind. I want you to breathe deeply and question yourself. What do I require right now? Not what you require from him, but what you require. Do you need tranquility? Do you need activity or exercise? Do you need to contact a friend, work on that venture, take time for yourself? And then I want you to provide that. I want you to supply yourself what you need rather than waiting for him to supply it. Because here's the magic. When you become your personal source of attention, care, and affirmation, when you treat yourself the way you merit treatment, you naturally begin attracting individuals who treat you identically. His silence isn't a directive to pursue him. It's an invitation to reconnect with yourself. Each time he doesn't call and you remain balanced. Each time he doesn't reply and you stay concentrated on your life. Each time he vanishes and you don't vanish from your personal existence, you are constructing something nobody can remove from you, your inner strength. And here's something I want you to comprehend deeply. This strength isn't merely about attracting superior men. It's about living superior. It's about resting peacefully, awakening enthusiastic for your day, making choices from clarity rather than anxiety. Because understand, one thing is to intellectually grasp that you shouldn't pursue a man who doesn't seek you, but it's something completely different to sense that reality in your core, to sense that you genuinely merit someone who invests effort, who communicates with you, who doesn't leave you speculating about his intentions. And here's what I've observed in every woman who experiences this evolution. They stop rationalizing behavior they previously endured. They stop creating excuses for men who don't prioritize them. They stop accepting fragments of attention when they merit the complete banquet. Do you understand what's the most freeing aspect of all this? When you stop pursuing someone who doesn't seek you, you immediately create room for someone who will. When you stop investing your energy into one-directional relationships, that energy remains with you, and you utilize it to construct something superior. I've witnessed women return to me after implementing these concepts saying, "I can't comprehend how I previously endured so much silence. I can't believe I once panicked over the attention of someone who obviously wasn't engaged. I can't believe my self-esteem previously relied so heavily on male validation." And that is the authentic transformation. You don't merely modify how you respond to silence. You modify what you're prepared to accept. You elevate your standards. You transform your relationship with yourself. Because here's a reality you need to inscribe in your heart. The woman who remains steady without pleading, without surrendering, without losing herself. She's the woman no man ever forgets, not because she's difficult to obtain, but because she's impossible to substitute. Do you understand why she's impossible to substitute? Because she's not performing a role she learned to attract men. She's simply being genuinely herself. She's existing from her truth, from her strength, from her core. That type of authenticity can't be simulated. It can't be duplicated. It can't be substituted. Because it emerges from years of internal development, self-exploration, learning to appreciate herself without requiring external affirmation. When a woman recognizes her value, when she doesn't panic for attention, when she can be completely satisfied independently, she emits an energy that attracts people naturally, not from strategy, but from genuineness, not from neediness, but from completeness. And I want you to understand something significant. Not every woman reaches this stage simultaneously. Some need to experience painful situations to awaken to their strength. Others recognize it immediately. Both journeys are valid. The significant thing isn't the duration it requires. It's that you intend to arrive there, that each day you make decisions that bring you nearer to becoming that confident, balanced woman, the one who doesn't plead for love because she understands she merits it without asking. His silence might be an examination, a diversion, an internal struggle, or simply pure disinterest. But your reaction to that silence is what characterizes who you are. It determines whether you emerge from this diminished or strengthened. And here's what I've witnessed repeatedly. Women who utilize their obstacles as chances for development, who view challenges as preparation grounds, who convert pain into strength. Those women become invincible, not merely in love, but in everything, because the abilities you develop to remain balanced during a man's silence are the precise abilities that make you excel in every life area. The capacity to not internalize things, to maintain your self-worth separate from others' behavior, to remain concentrated on your objectives despite external interruptions. So next time he doesn't call, rather than questioning what you did incorrectly, question what you can do correctly. Rather than awaiting him, discover yourself. Rather than pursuing him, construct a life so compelling that he desires to participate, not from neediness, but from respect. Rather than questioning why isn't he texting, question what can I build today? Rather than monitoring your phone obsessively, monitor your objective list obsessively. Rather than examining his final words, examine your next moves. Because ultimately, it's not about interpreting male silence, it's about constructing an internal world so resilient, so abundant, so whole that nobody's silence can disturb it. It's about developing a life so filled with meaning, enthusiasm and happiness that no individual's absence could ever deplete it. It's about being so complete independently that anyone who enters your existence is an enhancement, not a requirement. And that doesn't mean becoming emotionally unavailable or resistant to love. It means the contrary. It means loving from a position of abundance, not scarcity. It means presenting your best self because you have abundant to offer, not because you're expecting to gain something back. When you achieve that stage, when you genuinely exist that way, you'll understand that the strength was always inside you. You simply needed to recall it. You simply needed to reclaim it. You simply needed to determine that you merit being loved properly by someone who decides to remain, not by someone you must persuade. I'd appreciate knowing which of these 6 revelations connected most with you. Have you encountered any of these circumstances? Did you identify yourself in any of these patterns? Share your experience in the comments, because your story might assist another woman experiencing the same situation. Don't hesitate to be genuine. We've all been there. We've all surrendered our strength at some stage. The distinction is deciding to reclaim it. Remember, you didn't enter this world to be someone's alternative. You came to be your personal priority. You didn't come to plead for love. You came to emit so much self-appreciation that you naturally attract those who understand how to value you. Your strength isn't in the possession of someone who calls or doesn't. Your strength is in your possession. Utilize it intelligently. If this message helped you view male silence from a fresh angle, if it provided you genuine tools to maintain your inner strength, please like and share it with that friend who needs to hear this, because together we're more